trying to do is take that original promise, like this shit would be good enough for Willie's stash, and bring it to the shelf so that people can participate.
You talk with your hands so much. I retained everything you said. I think our listeners caught like a third of it. But you're right. Like it's that theory of, and I think a lot of our listeners are in that casual smoke group. Like we were talking with Court from Da Vinci or last week, and he was saying that he has a very tailored approach for a niche market. Y'all are trying to appeal to everyone that just wants to try weed, to everyone that loves weed. There's something for you, in your local market.
That's right.
What's the biggest bitch when it comes to navigating new markets? Which one has been the biggest headache? Which state? It's all right. We don't have a big listenership in Ohio.
I don't know that there's one market that's been the hard. I don't know that one market stands out. I mean, I think that the path to market is hard, no matter what.
No, I can believe that completely.
One thing that is interesting in Ohio, for instance, the sizing is different. So rather than eighths and quarters, they have a different way of measuring weight.
What is it, fucking Europe?
Selling. Yeah, well, I don't know. There are other markets where like in Colorado, you can't show the flower at all. You can't show the product in the packaging, where that's an expectation in Washington that you be able to see the buds that you buy. So there have definitely been some things that are both regulatory and then consumer oriented that vary by market that have us scratching our heads, right? Like it's definitely challenging. I feel fortunate that Willie Nelson has spent so much time laying down a reputation that we can build on. So Thank you, Willie Nelson. Thank you.
I'm sure Willie's listening to this as a regular listener. Him, Ryan Reynolds, a lot of fuckers. But no, that's a good point. It does pivot, and everybody's laws are a little bit different. We've asked this amongst a lot of the guests this week. What do you think is the future? Do we see a future to federal legalization coming soon, or do you think we're going to still bip and bop states for the next foreseeable? I mean, you've got your thumb on the pulse. I would be surprised if you haven't done political polling for your company as well. What's the temperature?
Is bip and bop like the Korean barbecue? Is that what you mean?
I don't know. I'm Southern redneck. I don't know any Korean terms. I did watch Squid Games.
No, I think that I think we were all really hopeful that we were going to see some more unified, federalized rulemaking soon, and it looks like that probably isn't going to be too soon. So I think that the successful companies are going to continue to navigate the state-by-state regulations to learn from it, and then apply positive pressure to try to get those rules to make sense and to get those rules to align with each other. I do think it's a good thing that states have different ways of regulating cannabis, because it's allowed for some different experimentation. So, like, there are consumption clubs that are going to be happening here in Nevada. Those haven't been fast-tracked in other markets, but hopefully if they work here...
We just voted on them in Colorado in 2020. And so we're just now starting to roll them out. We've seen them actually at the Live Well.
Right.
They're creating one right there uptown for those that are listening. They moved their Pearl location up to the former Hamburger Mary's bar.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's going to be really neat. I'm excited for them, but we're also excited to see that progression in not only legislation, but letting the people decide what they want. So consumption lounges. Because when someone comes into a Colorado town, you buy the weed, and then what the fuck are you supposed to do with it? There's only like two options. You either pay for a bus or you pay for like a day pass at Tetra. Like, we don't have the
You loiter on the sidewalk.
Yeah, and then, that's what I do just on a day. But, it sucks. The tourists shouldn't have to do that. They should be comfortable in doing. So I agree that, letting states deal with it, when looking at the southern states, there's parts of Mississippi that don't sell alcohol still. Arkansas doesn't sell alcohol on Sundays. Let the states do with it as they please, and then we'll navigate it. But we do need some federal help. And I guess maybe as Biden's approval rating drops, they're going to have to eventually pitch the idea. That's like your life preserver.
Yes.
Save your vote with the young people.
Yes.
Legalize weed.
Yes.
That's what I keep thinking.
Well, and he it seemed as if we were headed in that direction when he was on the ticket. So now that he's in the chair, I sure hope we see some of that direction again.
Same shit, different shoe. Nah, we won't. We won't see any change. There's too many other folks playing a part and lobbying and things of that nature. So I'm hopeful for the state-by-state regulation. Speaking of which, do we have plans for expansion? I hear that you've taken over the West Coast. What are your thoughts on navigating south or navigating to the Northeast where we're starting to see it more popular? Is that a place where we're looking to? What's on the horizon for Willies?
Absolutely. So we've got a few things going on. We're definitely focused on the Colorado market, which is our home base, where we have the most momentum, where we have the most storefronts. And I think that as we look ahead, the Northeast is definitely a place for expansion. Whether it's Pennsylvania, certainly has a lot of potential. I know there's a lot of talk about New York and New Jersey constantly by everybody at this show and everywhere. And certainly there are a lot of other states up and down the East Coast that are making strides. This summer, actually, we did a really cool thing with the Lock-In Festival in Virginia.
Shout out to Bobby and the crew.
Yeah. We had an opportunity to do a cannabis-oriented activation as part of Lock-In because Virginia recently legalized. And they are in that beautiful pocket between legalization and complete rulemaking where companies and events are able to ask for permission and experiment a little bit. So we did, and we were lucky to work with the folks at Lock-In to bring Willie's Joint, which is our on-the-road activation, to that festival. And we created what I was calling a pot bar. And people were like, what's a pot bar? I was like, well, you can come on in and you can put your pot on the table and play with it and share it. We can't sell it to you, but you don't have to hide it. And it was really good. Neat. It created a nice vibe for the festival environment. Music has always been the place where people are going to do the pot anyway, as my first story illustrates. And I think creating ways for people to do that without hiding in music environments is a way that a lot of musicians and other artists can help continue to push it forward. Somebody asked me earlier about all these young upstarts getting into celebrities who are younger and have less reputation in the world of weed than Willie Nelson getting into the business and making brands and doing things. And what did I think about that? I think it's freaking fantastic. Whether it's a short-lived project or a long-range project whether it's like just a quick commitment or like a big, this is what I want to be known for, the more people who are bringing folks into seeing cannabis as part of an everyday activity, as part of an accepted activity, the better. And we need all ages of voters subscribe to that idea if we really want to see this take hold and happen nationwide. So 18-year-olds need to hear from their stars that this matters, so that they can vote for it, so that when they're 21, they can do it legally.
I like that pitch. Yeah.
Thank you.
Shout out to our 18 and 21 year olds.
Hey, all you 18 and 21-year-old listeners, know your place. First vote, then smoke.
Holy shit, she has that down like a. All right, so you've been a fantastic guest. We've given Willie 20 minutes of our time. We're going to ask you some personal questions. I know that you told us the first time you got high was with Dave, smoking a little flower. Did you follow Willie's suit? Is flower your, modus operandi?
Flower is my modus operandi. I really prefer a bong.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bong?
A bong. I like a bong.
What's the weed scene like in Seattle?
It's great.
Yeah?
We have lots of stores, lots of flowers, lots of selection. There's been a lot of innovation in the cannabis product world. I'm interested in it. I like edibles and concentrates and drinks and all kinds of things, but I've been at it a long time. So I know that flower is for me. And that's what I go back to again and again.
I'm in the same boat, but we've seen, the New York Times reported on it, but during COVID we saw that huge uptick in edibles and things of that nature. Do y'all have the similar trends that we're having where it's vape carts and edibles seem to be taking over a little bit, or, taking a percentage of two while flower is always king? They're starting to see a little separation. Is y'all's market the same as ours?
It's a little bit, yes, it is. And we see that in all the states where we operate, that as the market matures, more and more people enter the market, and it's often those people entering the market that are interested in some of those other products. So the more familiar, the more accustomed people become to the fact that there's a cannabis store down the street. My theory is the more that we see products beyond flower gaining popularity and momentum. Certainly flower buyers will always be flower buyers, but maybe they're bringing along a friend, or maybe they're expanding their basket to get a couple things for their sweetie or their mom or their friend or a party. And I think that's fantastic, the way that all of these occasion-based consumption scenarios are driving some of the product adoption is very cool.
God, you have very articulate answers.
Thank you very much.
Before we get into our 2 heavy hitter questions of the day, let our listeners know, how can we find the product? What's our social media page if they want to follow you? Obviously, the shadow ban world is in effect. So spell it out for them. How can we follow you? How can we find the products? Not only Colorado, but for anybody listening.
Great. Our website is williesreserve.com, and we've got a store locator on there. And that's a good way to get started. You can follow us on all the social media at Willies Reserve Official. And I believe that's true for Facebook and Instagram and the Twitter.
The bird is the only one that's standing these days. Okay, perfect. So we just wanted to get that out there. It's a good PSA, because our next question is some heavy hitters. These are going to make you think.
Okay.
This first one's called the Stoned Appetit question of the week. Let's say you had a long day of navigating social media, hanging out and goof trooping. You get home, you're about to hang out on the couch. What's that guilty pleasure late night snack you just have to have before you go to bed, or it complements the J really well? What are you or the bong? What are we going for?
Probably ice cream, I would say. It's a go-to on a pint of ice cream, no bowl.
Okay, so this is going to be a very tough question. It's contentious on our podcast. What kind of ice cream person are you?
Like what flavor?
Yeah. Give us 3 so we can really get to know you.
Okay, Rocky Road.
Okay.
Totally underrated ice cream that needs to make a resurgence. So I will say Rocky Road.
You may be leading that campaign by yourself.
It's so freaking good. The marshmallows, they're like relief within the ice cream. And then there's an almond. What else will happen? Okay, I also like, I think that that cookies and cream.
Okay, so you're a normal person. I thought you were going to say, like, coffee.
Well, coffee chip was my third one.
Fuck.
Coffee with chocolate chips. I was going with a chocolate-based, a vanilla-based, and a coffee-based.
I just can't stand for the coffee ice cream. I find it
Okay, well, we won't hang out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll eat the first 2. Maddie said it's her favorite, so damn it, Maddie. All right, so that you survived. 2 of 3 is not bad. This is a pretty hard question, speaking of 2 and 3. It's called The Last Supper.
Okay.
So what it means is the world ends tomorrow, but tonight you get to party with 3 people of your choosing, dead or alive, but they cannot be friends or family. Who are you picking, and what are we eating? What are we doing?
Okay. I'm just going to go with what's top of mind, because this sounds funny to me right now. Okay. I'm going to include Willie Nelson because he's funny. And I would love to consider him friend or family, but, you know, I think for this, he's my boss, so I can still include him.
I'll allow it.
I'm also going to include Thomas Jefferson because you mentioned him, and that dude had some perspectives on him. I don't know if I agree with all of his things and his stuff, but having gone to the University of Virginia and been sort of enculturated into his worldview, I would love to hear and see
the rationale for enslaving his daughter.
Well, that's would be a good topic for Willie Nelson to challenge him to defend.
Okay.
And that would be, I think, what I would be interested in understanding is the dynamic between those two. And then I would include Rachel Maddow. Because she would actually be facilitating the conversation between these people and making it all hang together and make sense. Also, I'm a huge fan. So that's what I got.
Hey, okay. That doesn't sound too bad. You may have started a fight at the dinner table, but I don't hate it.
There's often a solid dinner party has some controversy.
That's a good point.
I mean, if you go to dinner, you agree with everybody the entire time.
You got to have in-depth conversations. I agree. Well, today was an in-depth conversation. I appreciate you coming on and talk about all things Willie, all things Willie's Reserve. You know, for those that want to try out some of their fine cannabis, you can literally find it across the Front Range. But check them out on their website and or social media. Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great to meet you.
Yes, ma'am. You as well. But we're going to hang up the mics and we're going to go party. Until next time, we say stay high, stay hungry, stay happy. Cheers.